Fast forward 3 years later, after that initial interaction, they actually reached out to me for a $10,000 commercial. Let's break this down. 3 words. The first word, personal. When I think of personal, well, this word has negative connotation, selfish, but I don't think selfish necessarily has to be a bad thing. So I think there's definitely a big aspect of art involved in personal film projects. It needs to be for you. It needs to serve a purpose for you. It should serve you and not a client, and it needs to put you first. I stumbled across a cinematographer's website a few years back. A lot of projects that he's shot, those are projects that I saw myself shooting in the future. And I reached out to him online. We had a short conversation. He's a European working out of Asia. Unfortunately, we didn't get to meet in person, but something he told me was that, his work took a big hit during COVID. He was out of work for 3 months. And I can imagine how hard it can be as a freelancer to not have work for 3 months, not knowing when you're going to get your next paycheck. Times like that are perfect for personal film projects. Keep yourself out there shooting, honing your skills, getting your reps in. There's a lot of use cases for personal film projects. This idea of creative burnout, whether you believe in burnout as being a real thing or not, I've definitely felt times in this past decade as a filmmaker where I didn't feel like shooting, go through a lot of ups and downs. For me, personal film projects are a way to nurture your passion, to keep curiosity alive and moving. Going back to personal health again, I know in my last video I was talking about how important it is to get sunshine, natural sunlight, especially in the winter. When I'm talking about keeping our curiosity and cultivating some kind of motion, it's also important to get your daily steps in. I aim for 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day. If we get our steps in, we keep our mind active, we keep our body flowing and moving. Same thing with our film projects. We can make our own personal film projects and keep ourselves going. I imagine myself doing some type of film recording at least once a week, at a minimum. Sometimes I get long jobs that last 3 weeks long and you're shooting every day for 3 weeks straight, but there are always going to be periods where there's a slow season. Those are great opportunities for personal film projects. Let me know about your personal film project success stories below in the comments. Thank you for subscribing to my channel and all the comments of encouragement. They really mean a lot to me. Here are a couple of comments from the YouTube community around this topic. I regularly do personal film projects whenever I'm between paid jobs. For me, that means creating mini docs. I have 2 rules. The topic story has to be interesting or fun to me. I always ask for full creative control when I do unpaid work. You never know to what it may lead, and I love doing it. I can work on my skills. I feel I'm pushing forward even though I'm not paid. Creating stuff makes me happy. Personal film projects, it can mean different things to different people. I agree with Von Gunten. It has to be interesting or fun to you, and it's a great outlet for us to express our approach to our craft. And Tanner Walters says, I believe it to be a borderline necessity in the beginning, and also whenever you want to do something you want to do, it takes a lot of pressure off of what I'm creating, and I feel there's more creative control in my hands since the client isn't paying. Also, if the client starts to get controlling or demanding, it is much easier to walk away because there's no money on the table. I want to share a story with you, a success story about a personal film project. My goal in sharing the story is really just be open and vulnerable to kind of give you a more of an intimate view into freelance filmmaking. And that happened to me, I started about 6 years ago. Even before that, I got into camera work mostly because of my passion for health and fitness. One of my first paying clients was an Olympic gymnast. That was the content that I wanted to shoot. Every camera person has some kind of story, specific reason why they started to pick up cameras and wanted to pursue shooting and capturing, whether it's paid or unpaid work. For me, that was health and fitness. After working a couple of years, I realized that budgets tend to not be so generous in the health and fitness space. That's just from my personal experience of working in the West Coast in America and also working in Taiwan. There wasn't financial stability working with these types of clients. When I moved to Taiwan, my first month here, I have family here, but in terms of industry connections, I had next to none. I forced myself to be extroverted and I wanted to film fitness and health related content. So I reached out to a supplement brand based in the UK. It's an international company. They linked me up with 3 of their ambassadors and I filmed some social media content for them. They were roughly 30-second videos each. She loved them and she sent me a bunch of free products. I just wanted to show them what I was capable of and that I had passion for shooting this type of content and I wanted to help promote their brand. So fast forward 3 years later, after that initial interaction, they actually reached out to me for a $10,000 commercial in Taiwan. And at that point in my career, I was excited, not just about the budget, but because it was a brand and products that I am passionate about. And it's something that I want to shoot. I would have shot it regardless. This budget, it wouldn't have happened if I didn't take these personal film projects seriously. And I'm not trying to encourage you to do personal projects just with the assumption that you'll eventually get paid work from it. About a year ago, I bought this URSA Mini Pro. Immediately, I didn't start charging clients for this equipment rental rate. My logic behind it was that I wanted to shoot content that I want to shoot to get to know the camera better, the human-machine interaction between me and this camera. I feel like it is very much like a relationship. You need to get to know each other, how you work best together. So I shot a lot of personal film projects with this camera. Again, going back to my roots around health and fitness. I'm actually fascinated by genetics. I've been helping document one of my friends, Cooper, who's a professional bodybuilder here in Taiwan. I've been documenting his training and his competition experience over the past few years. That was one of the first personal film projects that I shot with the URSA Mini Pro, was him competing in, it's called the Dream Cup, where I didn't have access to be lighting things. So I shot it very run and gun documentary style. And it was a great opportunity for me to get to know this camera better and also for me to better understand how it reacts in low light conditions. And then later on, I also shot another film project, which is similar content, but with a different athlete. I saw him posing, doing a lot of classic physique posing in the gym. So I knew that he was a competitor and that he was well practiced in body movement. Another thing that was quite interesting was that he's extremely tall, and a lot of competitive bodybuilders, successful bodybuilders, are not that tall. I'm 186 centimeters roughly, and he's even taller than me. So I really wanted to capture his story and what it's like to compete as a taller athlete. It was over about 3 days of filming. And again, I mostly used the URSA Mini Pro. I was able to light a little bit. Again, I didn't push it a lot because I didn't want to spend budget. This time I did not hire a gaffer. I just shot it by myself. And that's the thing, personal film projects, they could be various scales. It could be just you by yourself, which I kind of like. It has its pros and cons. It's very easy to schedule. You don't need to worry about making sure everyone's on the same page and having pre-production meetings and those types of things. But again, there's only so much quality, so much you can do by yourself. But I did bring a couple of small lights when I could, kind of pushing yourself to practice. Personal film projects are exactly the same thing, where it's you call the shots, you make up the rules, no client involved. I just want to end with talking about a couple of points that can kind of help you organize these self projects. Open up this my Milanote. There are really just 5 points here. Number 1, it must have a character with a goal and desire. I will usually write a paragraph and maybe grab some imagery from shot deck, some inspirational visuals to kind of get me in the right mind space, but also if I'm filming someone to kind of get them along the same page as what I'm thinking. If you're doing a documentary style, then you don't really need to worry so much about being a storyteller. It's more just about interviewing this person. It could be off the camera, slowly gathering which parts of their story that you find intriguing. A focused, clear purpose, a theme and a heartbeat. And then the third point is human voice. This is something that it could be a script that you write by yourself, or it could be you interview your subject or the person that you want to film, the content that you want to film. You could grab audio bites and then cut it together into a script. Instead of it just being a beautiful montage of imagery, within the first 5 to 15 seconds, you have some kind of voice. It could even be your own voiceover, or you could use AI voice and tie the viewer with the content and the story that you're trying to show to them, help them relate by hearing the tone of their voice, the words they're using. Number 4, which is the rise in tension. There's an arc, a story arc, not just flat. You want it to have some dimensionality to it. Whereas the inciting incident, the rise in tension, the climax before the resolution, how can that be utilized in your piece? The 5th piece is script. And then after you have those 5 points, you should have a pretty good start into executing your personal film project. I put a lot of images into this pre-production board. As DPs, as cinematographers, we are very visually driven. So I use that to kind of inform the coloring, the lighting, the composition, the coverage with what types of lenses and camera movement that I want to incorporate into the piece. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear what you think about personal film projects, what you've been doing, and what success stories you've had with personal film projects.
我刚开始看到他的 pose 的时候，动作它其实是黑白作品，那或许他可能是还在构想，但我觉得很美、很帅、很流畅。他展现那个肌肉的线条力与美啊，原本以为我肌肉很大，活动度会受限，但这只是我异想天开，太天真。原来它其实可以像画一样美丽。 我本来是健体路线啊，但我没有想过上下肢肌肉的平衡可以这么的受人注目，那让我对 rough 的鼓点啊为之疯狂。它可以在任何动作上展现肌肉、线条、刻度与流畅动作。看完之后，我是真的很想自己 like him 变成他，但希望自己也能有在这个动作上展现自己。 单纯觉得我可以在这个上面坚持很久很久，可以维持健康啊，然后也可以有很好的体态，甚至拿到很好的名次。